Now welcoming on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast for another Coach's Corner segment. It is Justin Smith, head men's golf coach for the University of Minnesota. Justin, thanks for being here. And this is perfect time of year to talk a little bit about you guys as a northern, climate school playing Division I golf. And I know this has been a fun one that even like off air that we've chatted about, and it's fun to get the perspective. And we actually did an interview with Eric Van Rooyen, and he mentioned some things about this as well. But competing against Southern schools and doing so without this sort of, hanging over your head of, well, they get to play golf all year round. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Give us the lowdown on that a little bit, and as we get started here.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Hopefully, we'll continue to build off some good things we did first go around.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the ultimate formula for us coaches in the North to figure out, right? Like the fall season for us is an easier transition for sure because our players are playing all summer. Even if you look at the calendar year, right, from that January all the way through, it's the back half of their year, and in reality for us as teams, it's the start of our year. So being in the North, we can strategize a little bit differently with tournaments and where we play, and obviously playing more up north, and the weather's conducive to that. But this time of year, we have to get really creative, and I think as coaches, I spend a ton of time, and obviously overanalyze probably way too much. But who we play, where we play them, what type of grass we can play on, trying to make it as familiar as possible to do that for our team, while at the same time making sure we're kind of setting ourselves up for hopefully postseason and well beyond come May. So we got to use every resource at our fingertips as coaches to try to set our team up for success that way, and that's kind of the ultimate challenge this time of year. Yeah.
So I mean, as we're recording this is you guys recently got back from playing in an event in Puerto Rico. And so you guys, you've talked about, in the previous segment, you referred to kind of competing and finishing well amongst the blue bloods of Division I golf, so to speak, that were there. And so kind of, can you just talk about what you do as, when you're managing the program and managing the team and trying to prepare them for that event? What are the steps you guys took to do so, trying to keep, games fresh, ready to compete against some of the best schools in Division I golf?
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny. I got a funny story. I had a conversation with a coach down there, another northern coach down in Puerto Rico, and a little bit of their preparations. It's probably stuff that we keep close to the vest here from coach to coach, along with recruiting and other stuff. But a lot of times, like, we got to help each other out, right? We've got to kind of protect each other. Big Ten conference in golf versus SEC or versus Big 12, other Southern schools, right? It gets some fun competitions between that all, and us trying to make sure we're competing at that level. But look, for us, the one thing I think we can do really well is really separate parts of the game. And so when we're looking to prepare for a course or a tournament or the type of weather conditions we're going to face, right? Like, the craziest thing is we went down to Arizona on a training trip right at the end of January. It's going to help us play. We play a bunch of events come March and April in the Arizona area. So it's going to give us a great opportunity to be competitive for those. But we had to prepare for Puerto Rico, where it's 82 degrees every day, Bermuda grass. Arizona doesn't have a ton of Bermuda grass. And it's blowing 15, 20 miles an hour. In Arizona, it was dead calm. So how can we kind of get ready for that? I don't know if we fully could, right? Exception of the practice rounds and kind of having guys work on certain shots. But we could really separate parts of the game that we knew was going to translate. And that's something that we try to figure out what translates really well from indoors to outdoors and what doesn't translate well. So we probably don't do a ton of short game work indoors. We do some technique stuff. We don't do a ton of speed putting indoors, knowing that we're going to have to go learn speeds of the greens. We're going to have to learn the grass, going to have to learn the firmness. Down in Puerto Rico, it's very soft. But we needed our best ball strikers because it was going to be windy. Some holes are pretty demanding. Par fives, we needed to drive it well and take advantage of those, which we didn't do, but that's something we'll continue to work on. So that's something constantly, evaluating. Yeah. And, for that matter, the one thing that we had an advantage on, which was funny thinking about it, over some other teams there, is maybe they were doing, I'm sure they were doing, there's a lot of smart coaches, but we could play Grand Reserve, which was the course we were on simulator golf a lot.
Wow.
So there was some talk from some other coaches that were like, is that even legal? Is that like having too many practice rounds in the tournament? And we're like, we're hitting into a screen.
Yeah, I mean,
like we're not down here playing the course, right?
Yeah.
So what it would do is give us the visuals. It would give us the ideas or the distances. You can dial up wind. We know the wind direction that it's going to come, and really create that familiarity. Going back to the first part, is in the springtime we have to create the familiarity for our players, and that's ultimately what leads to their comfort and allows them to free up and play their best golf. And it doesn't guarantee anything, but I think as coaches, we're just trying to stack the odds in our favor to give us that little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
And after the fall, right, we're trying to find a half of a shot per guy that's going to allow us to be in the postseason and play at the NCAA final. So I think we're overanalyzing probably immensely, but at the same time, we're trying to use our technology to our advantage and maybe get a little bit of an edge that most people think we could.
Yeah, I never thought of that, actually. I mean, there's, with all the simulator softwares out there and stuff, I'm sure that's probably an option at many of the tournament courses that you guys have on the schedule, is the ability to play it virtually, which again, there's a limitation to what it actually, how that translates to actual golf out there. But to see the visuals, see how the hole might shape up visually from the tee box, that stuff matters. That's fascinating. So mentally now, you mentioned this before too in the previous segment a little bit when you were playing for the Gophers, and sort of this kind of, I kind of have been calling it a chip on the shoulder type of thing. Yeah. Where, is that something that you kind of try to instill into the players, when they're going to go play, against a bunch of schools that are, southern climates? How do you instill that to them, or maybe have them, train them mentally to kind of think about something like that when it would be very easy for a player to be like, well, these guys have been playing golf the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's by far it's the biggest X factor. It's the biggest challenge. For our standpoint, is how do we get a really excited group? And I think when you haven't been on courses and you haven't been battling all year, and thinking about, hey, I'm going to get out of the cold weather, go to a really great place, great venue, great support, all that stuff, right? It's initially going to up your spirits and get you really excited and get you really eager to go compete. That's, I think, the baseline of what as coaches we try to get our players to be. And if we do that, right, we know that, their attitudes and everything they're going to take into the competition is going to be the best they have. And sometimes in the fall, like, we battle, I hate to say it, I know these kids are 18 to 22 years old, they're young men, but like, you're at the back end of a calendar year, and they've been playing all year, competing all year. So you sit there and kind of keep a close eye on, is it playing too much, right? Are they kind of winding down? Are they getting a little bit fried? Are they getting a little burnout, some fatigue? Yeah. This time of year, it's just full on like excitement, eagerness. And then if we can add in a little bit of that chip on the shoulder, like, hey, nobody's giving us credit. We're going to come down into here, and people are like, no chance Minnesota can compete. And you get a group to kind of buy into that. That can just be that extra difference. And we have to buy into it. We have to believe it. To kind of make up a little bit more ground.
Yeah, I guess that's another element I didn't think of. But there's what's another round of golf outside for those schools down south versus you guys who have been trapped inside? With the exception of maybe the trips you guys end up doing. But like, there's an excitement level there, that's an enthusiasm that's probably a little bit higher than those other schools that have been down there and playing golf outside, and it's nothing different for them to just they're playing golf
again. Take it for granted.
Right? Taking it for granted. Exactly.
The fortunate thing from our end is we're about to take our second training trip coming up this coming weekend, and it's one of our few times we get to travel the entire team. If you look at a lot of other sports teams, basketball teams, whatever, like, they travel their whole team all the time. For us as golf, like, we don't get to travel our whole team. We got 5 or 6 guys, and then we have 2 or 3 at home, and they're working on their game to try to crack the lineup. Right. So to be able to take everybody, like, it adds an element, I think, to their excitement and their experience and, like, the enthusiasm to do it all together that we saw earlier with our training trip. We'll do it on this coming training trip, and we'll do it on our spring break trip. And it just another way to kind of create that excitement, and something that we try to do every day in practice. Like, maybe not the whole practice, they need to focus on their individual tasks and in their areas of their games that they need to really kind of be intentful with. But it's also at the end of how do we create that energy. And just the other day, like, our assistant coach was kind of challenging one of our guys on our team over ball speed and says, there's no way you can beat me on ball speed. Well, before you know it, we had everybody on the team in our hitting bay watching this back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was bringing stuff out of our team. I'm like, this is kind of what we need. Can we take this into everything we do? Because that could be the difference.
Right.
And so I think we're trying to find every little nook and cranny we can use to our advantage.
Now, in terms of recruiting, this is another, area I'm curious about, because there has to be a little bit of a hurdle, so to speak, when recruiting and kind of, letting these recruits know, or your prospective players, hey, this is the reality of the situation. You have a couple months out of the year, if not more. I mean, a few months out of the year, really up here, where you can't go outside and play golf. So this is, this is what we do, but ultimately, this is how we have to operate. Is there, and with that said, you're able to land. There's players on the roster from all over.
Yeah.
So clearly something's working there. But I guess without giving any secrets away, like what's the there's certainly a message that you have to kind of portray in recruiting.
Yeah, look, my first couple of years as a coach, right? It was a question I never wanted it to come up. I never wanted weather to come up. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because I didn't really have a great answer.
Right.
Now, I think more years into it, I want it to come up right away because I want to make sure we have the right fit. And are we ever going to be the most talented team in the country? Probably not. But we don't have to be. We have to have a group that's in it together. They love everything about Minnesota. Our athletic department at university, at a golf level, we have so much at our fingertips, and we're so grateful for the opportunity to do it. When you pair that on top of what our community does, our support, our donors, our alumni, and business like Second Swing here, and the support you guys all show us, now we've built kind of a spot where you can get better anywhere.
Yeah.
And the facilities are at that level. And yeah, we don't have golf course to play as much as other teams, but it's all about the other stuff. And if we get a group that's really about Minnesota and buy in, we kind of call it our commit north mentality, just embracing it and saying, yeah, like there might be days that are harder than others. And you're going to get like a little bit pulled in different directions of like, gosh, can I get better here? But you can. It's been proven. Mm-hmm. You look at what Ben Warrian's done. You look at what Angus Flanagan's done. But yeah, we've got some of our best players are from Peru, from Australia, obviously Scotland, but we've got our Minnesota kids. Like we've got kind of a diverse group here from all over that's getting better. And as coaches, right, we always want to try to speed it up and help them do it quicker. But you can do it here. You just got to buy in. You just got to face it. And Minnesota is an amazing place to do that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that conversation with a player, and it's got to be really cool to have the player from Peru or whatever, a southern climate, able to get them to come play for Minnesota because that they're going to buy in and they're about the team if they're willing to sacrifice kind of warm Decembers and Januaries to come up here in Minnesota and play, but it's got to be really cool to have that conversation with them, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm all about it.
It's tough at first, and there's a lot of check-ins early on.
Yeah,
make sure they're okay, or do we need to buy you another jacket, kind of thing, or a big winter parka. But they're the ones that embrace it as well as anybody. Like it's impressive. Like our Australian freshman comes in, and I can't not today. Probably, I hope not. Like it wouldn't be the smartest thing in the world, but he'll come to practice. It's cold, and he doesn't have a coat on. He's just like, I'm ready. Let's go. Right. But that's the mentality we need, and that's what we have to recruit. And then I know that we got a group of 8 or 9 or 10 that's all in it together like that. Then we can achieve what we want for sure.
Yeah. So when these spring events come, and I don't know if you guys pay attention to this, but you're looking at who's all down there. Obviously most of the schools, there's maybe some Big Ten schools that are quote unquote northern climates and stuff. But is that something you guys take note of, or is it just like, hey, there's a team here, let's just beat them? Is it more like that, more of that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I'm more that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care who's in my way.
Yeah.
Like, we got to figure out how to beat them. I don't care what names on their shirts. I don't care what colors they have. I don't care where they're coming from. We got to figure it out and out-compete them and outsmart them and kind of, use our strategy to our advantage with the group of people that we have. But yeah, I think without getting into too many specifics, I think like we just gotta know what our identity is.
Yeah.
Like we're about avoidance, right? Like this past tournament that we were in, we led the field. We were tied for first in pars, made 183 pars. Is that the ultimate category that you want to lead in that helps you win tournaments? Probably not, but it's a step in the right direction for us of how we're kind of attacking or the parts of the game that are sharp enough.
Yeah.
Now it's all of a sudden like we were, I think, 10th out of 15 in birdies made. There's a lot of stats out there, a lot of people and a lot of data people that say like it's about avoidance versus like leading the field in birdies. Obviously, when you're playing the best teams in the country, you kind of got to do both.
Right.
But at the same time, like that's the start for us. If we keep doing that over a long period of time, I feel really good about the way our finishes are going to come for us this spring. We just got to play the par fives a little bit better, kind of cut down on a few sloppy things around the greens. But this time of year, like that's okay. Like we'll continue to get better at it, and we'll kind of face it head on and figure out how on practice trips and at practice rounds, and as we continue to go through the spring, we'll continue to get sharper.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and I'm sure in a sense, a kind of a moment there to see this is kind of what you guys are embracing is the avoidance thing. I imagine that's avoiding the big numbers, avoiding the bogeys, avoiding the mistakes. And then to lead the tournament in pars, that's again, I'm sure on maybe half the holes, so to speak, right? You're thinking birdie out there, right? And then the other half, it's like that's those long par fours, tricky, difficult holes. You're thinking par, but still, there's an element there where you're like we're on the right track here. Yeah,
and ball striking, ball control is something this time of year that we can be as good as anybody at. We have incredible resources in technology to help us understand that and figure out who's really sharp and are we getting better, even if we're hitting in a hitting bay versus hitting out on a range or playing on a golf course. So that avoidance part's a huge topic of discussion for us day in and day out, and a lot of it's golf course strategy and us coaches really kind of laying out how to play holes and how to attack it based on player strengths. But obviously when you play the best teams in the country, which we just did, you got to be good at all of it. And that's the fun challenge to get to that level and to compete at that level consistently in the standard we want to be at. But at the end of the day, right, what is our identity? This is what we want to be about. And it doesn't matter the time of year, that we're in, that we can certainly excel at those areas. So I'm certainly excited about what we learned in Puerto Rico and then what we'll apply moving forward, even though we might not have the best stuff outdoors to go compete on at home here, but that's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, you've obviously as a player you've done that before, so you kind of you learn how to deal with it, and then you apply it and have success, right? So, so Justin, thank you for joining. This is great. Talking a little bit about what you guys both mentally and preparation wise, how you guys play with those schools down south. It's fun to hear that process a little bit. So we wish you the best of luck moving forward the rest of the season here, and always at Second Swing we're always rooting for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.